Remember the daughter-in-law who had the mother-in-law who would do anything to protect her own daughter? Like, her daughter could do no wrong. She could have multiple affairs, even have a child with one of the people that she had an affair with. She could be in adult circles doing adult things. All the while, the whole family was knowing what's going on. The mother-in-law was going around making sure and swearing everybody to secrecy so that her daughter's husband didn't find out, even though she could be bringing home diseases to him. That story. She's also the same mother-in-law who exhibited extreme favoritism with her grandchildren. In fact, one time, 2 of her grandchildren, one from her son's family and one from her daughter that could not do anything wrong, were doing the exact same thing, and only the child from her son's family was disciplined, and the older children ended up calling their parents, telling them what happened. The son then reprimanded his mom, and that night she tried to end everything, leaving a note saying it was their fault and leaving all of her material possessions not to her husband, but to her perfect daughter and the grandchild that was born out of the affair. Basically, it's the kind of unhealthy devotion that we're seeing in the Mackenzie Shirilla case. If you have watched The Crash on Netflix.
I'm hearing an awful lot about your daughter. I'm not hearing very much about the 2 dead people.
And you saw her stand up to give her impact statement, and the judge actually had to remind Mackenzie's mom, hello, you're supposed to be talking about the victims here. And even when she was redirected, the mom still couldn't figure it out. That's the level of just unhealthy, toxic devotion this mother-in-law had for her own daughter. After watching that series, we received a story from one of you that completely saw yourself in Kira. You wanted to give her a big hug. And I'm actually just going to read you her story because this story definitely deserves bearing witness to. I just watched the story about Kira and it hit a tender spot. I am so sad for her. I look at cutting off people as the last resort to protect yourself or your kids. Adults should be able to discuss things calmly and rationally. Conflict and rupture, they're just all part of relationships. Healthy people can figure out how to repair it, but it has to be a two-way street. If both parties can't communicate, it will never be fixed. It sounds like Kira is so much like me, trying to be the peacekeeper, smooth things out, stay small, keep calm. It sounds like she hit a breaking point. Yes, the breaking point for Kira was when the mother-in-law wanted to keep it a secret from her son-in-law, like that her daughter was attending adult parties, because Kira's like, oh my gosh, this is now dangerous to him. Like, he could be contracting something and he has no idea. She continues, that's when everything changes, is when you reach your breaking point. You see things clearly and you refuse to be bullied. But despite your hurt, you keep trying to achieve something that's impossible. You'll keep trying to fix things. You'll hope they understand why bad-mouthing your partner isn't okay. You just want to talk and be heard. But if they're not willing to communicate, you can't control them. So now you're faced with 2 bad choices. Lose contact with your family or accept abusive behavior towards you, your partner, and your children. Even observing bad behavior without any consequences is abusive to your children. It destroys their sense of safety and undermines all you're trying to teach them about love, respect, communication, and kindness. You think losing their grandparents is too high of a price, but if you're being forced to deal with this behavior, the grandparents aren't safe for your kids. During my 4-year contentious divorce, my family crossed several inappropriate boundaries. Number 1, because my parents' financial support with attorney costs, they felt entitled to answers that I had honestly and repeatedly told them simply weren't possible. With my brother's help, my parents composed and jointly sent an email to my attorney to ask her the same questions they had asked me. She, of course, ignored it because of attorney-client privilege, but I was stunned and absolutely mortified. My brother later refused an interview with the Guardian ad litem until those email questions were answered. While my daughters were visiting their cousins at my brother's home, hours away, my youngest daughter was encouraged to write a letter to the judge. Oh my gosh. It was sent directly to the Guardian ad litem without sharing it with me. I was told after the letter was sent. That is insane. My chest is on fire right now. Number 4, during a different visit, my kids wanted to stay longer, but we had a custody schedule. My sister-in-law called my ex, not me, asked him if they could stay longer. Our provisional agreement stated any scheduling was to be coordinated only between the parents. I explained to my sister-in-law now the risk that I had of being held in contempt and the danger that this would pose overall for custody. I thought she understood and we were on the same page, but not 2 weeks later, during another visit, my 14-year-old daughter called her dad, asked to stay longer. He asked to talk to my sister-in-law, who made alternative plans directly with him again. My brother texted me to inform me that they had made a scheduling change. My Lord. I called to ask my daughter first to understand what happened, and then I asked to talk to my sister-in-law. My brother took the phone, and as I calmly explained to him the same information that I explained to my sister-in-law, he grew belligerent. When I said this was overstepping, he flew into a fit of rage and hung up the phone. With your kids there. An hour later, my mom, not on the call, no involvement with the situation, sent me a horrible text via the family group chat saying that I couldn't keep treating my brother and sister-in-law this way, that I was destroying my children and the rest of the family, and demanding that I end the divorce now. Talk about a gut punch. She sent the same message via email just to make sure I see it. This is awful. My phone calls, texts, and multiple lengthy emails to my brother, sister-in-law, and mom were ignored. This started nearly 3 years of silent treatment from everyone except my dad. I and my kids were excluded from family birthdays, holidays, everything. The poor kids in both families lost access to cousins they loved. My kids lost their entire extended family, holidays, visits in an instant, and I couldn't even explain why because no one would talk to me. This is so sad. Several long emails simply asking for communication were ignored. One 4-page letter asking for reconciliation received a no comment response from my mom. There's so much more, but I just wanted to share that a kindly worded message isn't necessarily going to fix anything. This is just absurd. They did something wrong to you, and then the whole narrative switched as if you were doing something unforgivable to your brother and sister-in-law, and then they ghosted you for 3 years and your children. She continues, if someone won't even consider having a conversation, there is no way one person can restore a broken relationship, no matter how badly they want to. That is definitely the truth. Like Kira, my family's behavior was causing me so much harm and my girls. I didn't choose to walk away, and it's been devastating. But in the end, it forced me to see what I wanted to deny. Losing grandparents and family feels like too high of a price. I know the heartbreak. But what's the cost of Kira continuing the way she has been? She needs to protect her husband, children, and herself. It's been a long, tough road for my little family, but our lives are healthier and more peaceful with caring friends who demonstrate to my kids that love always includes respect. It's so beautiful. More than I planned to say, but I wanted to say thank you for your compassionate advice, making every attempt to restore things, but honestly acknowledging this might not be possible. Hugs to Kira and you. If you ever want to hear more about my story, feel free to reach out. I could probably provide you with months of material. I will add that when we went through our estrangement, it was sort of like that for my husband. He had no idea that his entire family would turn on him, all because he stood up for our parenting and he stood up for a boundary that we set, like our very first one, because we didn't really know that we weren't setting boundaries our entire marriage before that. But when he did set and hold a boundary, and he was also standing up for his mom against a different family member, all of a sudden he was turned the bad guy, as if that family member hadn't done a whole bunch of horrible things that everybody knew about. And all of a sudden that family member was put on a pedestal and my husband was thrown under the bus. It was just a compilation of horrible, traumatic events, and it really does traumatize you. So if anyone can identify with this listener's story, I do highly recommend going to therapy, allowing a therapist to bear witness to your story, walk you through just the grief and the trauma of having family that you think is a certain way completely turn their backs on you. It is a horrific experience. I just want to say thank you so much for this listener reaching out to us, sharing her story, and then also sharing her insight to Kira.